Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, brothers and sisters. Welcome to PSGL Season 34, round number 6. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Silverstone for this amazing league. My name is Chris Buxton, standing in again for the mighty George Morgan, alongside the frankly gorgeous and amazing Jack Canan.
I don't know about the first bit, but but great to be back. Great to have you back, Chris. Of course, did a fantastic job last week. But George is off doing something in Saudi Arabia, so we'll let him do his thing. But best of luck to everyone who's competing out ESL R1, the Gamers 8 out there as well. A couple of our drivers are out there at the moment, and namely Freddie Rasmussen and a couple of other old F1 Esports heads as well. Yoni Tormala is out there as well. Chembolic Bassi is also out there as well. So best of luck to all of those guys who are out there. But who cares about that for a second? PSGL is back for round number 6 at Silverstone. And now we have, basically at the moment, we have a runaway championship leader. 18 points in front is Barry Boremand, 6 rounds in at the moment. So really, really good stuff from him. And of course, with the new points, with the point system of PSGL, he is now 1 whole race win in front of everybody else's nearest rival, Danny Beresnay. So we're excited to see a lot of the heavy hitters are back on the grid this evening, which we're looking forward to. But Silverstone, I think PSGL made a good point on Twitter. It's hard to dislike Silverstone.
Very, very true. I make no apologies for loving Silverstone. I've been very fortunate enough to have spectated and worked at Silverstone on a couple of occasions. It is a great place. I absolutely love it from a real-life racing standpoint, a sim racing standpoint, from every standpoint, quite frankly. We're just waiting for quality has actually begun, but no one has left track, which is why I haven't actually switched over there, because there's nothing actually to see right now. The eagle-eared will hear the announcer going on in the background. So yes, as Jack says, Barry Boremand leading the way on 44 points. Then it is Danny Beresnay coming home 4th in his home race last time out on 26. Jake Benham in the AFCAR on 21. Brendan Lee on 15, storming through to a podium last time out. Then it is Wilson Hughes, Jarno Omin, Alfie Butcher all on 12. So there's going to be a great amount of fighting going on there. With the rest of the field joining us. And we now have cars leaving to get on track. So let's have a look at who is out there. If my OBS would kindly behave itself. Thank you. Had enough blooming trouble with my system last week, and I have remembered to put my Discord on Do Not Disturb. For those that have, I am so sorry. For those that had a big jump scare when I had a blooming Discord call come in towards the end of the race last time out. So the first man on track is Alvaro Carreton in the Williams. Slow car, very closely followed, or comparatively closely followed, I should say, by Jarno Opmeer, the fan favourite in the Mercedes, ready to do battle once again. Patrick Sipos, we didn't see him last week either. He's in the Alpine. The traditional first lap being done on the intermediate tyres. As we can see, not a drop of rain to be found yet. It is Silverstone. Who knows what will happen as far as the weather is concerned. But yeah, I love Silverstone. Have you been, Jack?
Sadly, I have not been to Silverstone before, so it's definitely on my list. But yeah, look, again, this is going to be really exciting. Qualifying, always great to watch around here, and the races we've had here in the past PSGL have been nothing short of incredible. I mean, when we talk about Patrick Seaposs, actually, he took his first ever victory here a couple of seasons ago when he was only a reserve at that time, before he'd even made it into F1 Esports at that time. He beat out some serious talent to take the victory right here out of seemingly nowhere. But again, he always goes well here, just Patrick Seaposs. It will be exciting to see how he gets on. Of course, the man who took a previous victory here was Shinaka Clay, who, but unfortunately he's not around to defend it this weekend. With this week, unfortunately, he's had some hardware issues, so he has had to unfortunately peel away, and Istvan Pukki has taken over that Williams seat for this evening. So only a couple of drivers coming out for one lap around on the intermediate tyres. And again, it's something we've noticed in the new game cycle is the intermediate laps are not as common as we would have once seen before, with most drivers coming out and doing full laps, some deciding to come in. But Donoso has decided to stay out and go for a lap around Silverstone on the intermediate compound tyre. Now, again, Donoso, a man who hasn't had luck go his way this season, let's put it that way. I mean, he's been on the front row in Brazil. He's been on the front row multiple times, but just whatever's gone wrong, whether it's contact or anything like that, just hasn't gone his way towards the end of the race. But we know Donoso is back to his best up towards the front end of the order as well. It's good to see him there. Of course, we were talking about, again, you're mentioning Brendan Lee, who got on the podium last week. He's not with us this week because he's busy preparing for Formula E Accelerate. He's competing over there, so best of luck to Brendan in that one. But he has drafted in, of course, the third driver at Alfa Romeo, which is Matthias van Erven, and good to see him back on the grid as well. Luke Blakely back this week as well, and we're excited to see how he gets on with Wilson Hughes alongside him as well. So we've plenty to talk about, but let's see if Marcel Kiefer can spring another surprise. If you did miss it, pole position last week for Marcel Kiefer for the first time in PSGL. So we'll see how he gets on here, because he took it from seemingly nowhere.
Yeah, and scored his season best of 6th overall last time out. It was a shame that he wasn't able to translate that absolutely godlike pole lap into a race result. As we see Fabrizio Donoso bring his car back into the pits. It's a sadly common story with Fabrizio. I've seen him through his early days, pre F1 Esports, and he was blindingly quick, but sadly inconsistent with converting his pace and his talent into those results. It is such a shame because, look, if you were to look just at the scoreboard, 5th his season best so far at Brazil, and a 15th and a 13th, doesn't at all paint the right picture of his talent or his dedication or anything like that. In fairness, everybody in this tier, reserve or not, is absolutely superb. So again, I made this point last week. Sounds like an obvious statement, but the amount of people in this tier that are involved in F1 Esports just goes to show how good they are, even though they may not be having the best season. Donoso being a prime example. I mean, you could argue, looking at Lucas Blakely's numbers, he's not had a great season this time out. I think it's fair to say. We didn't see him in Zandvoort. He was 4th at Brazil, but having missed qualifying last time out in Hungary and then had a lap 1 incident, meant he finished 15th. Not something you would expect of the champion.
No, absolutely not. But again, I suppose we have to take into account the first 2 rounds were voided, and but it was. I think it was. Blakely won the opening round, so he's unfortunately been the man who's taken the worst end, I suppose, of the first 2 rounds getting voided. But I think you're right. But again, Blakely is always strong. He's always in and around. And again, it was only because he missed qualifying that I think he would have been right up the front there. And again, with on-track battles as well, there was a humongous battle in one of the rounds where it was Brazil actually where he was fighting for the victory and was not able to take it in the end. But he's always really strong. He's the reigning F1 Esports champion, and he's getting back in a GP4 car as well very shortly. So let's see. Hopefully he'll represent us very well as the 10 minutes to go gets close, and all of a sudden cars start to peel out of the pit lane. One of the Ferraris making their way out of the pit lane now. It's going to get very busy out on the circuit right now. It's that special 10-minute mark that we seem to enjoy around here at Silverstone. So it is going to be, I think, Nicholas Longe who's going to get us underway here for the first dry tyre runs of this session. So again, Longe probably another one who you probably would have expected to be a little bit further up early on in this season, but we haven't seen the opportunity yet, or the full opportunity yet, to see the teamwork between Barry Borman and Nicholas Longe this season, because if you see last season, these two, they're very, very good friends, and the synergy at Ferrari, I think, is going to probably worry a lot of teams going into the new F1 Esports season.
Yeah, absolutely so. And Nick, along with many, many people, or Chromatic, as I remember him way back in the day, has shown that he's not only very, very quick, but is exactly as you say, Jack. He's a team player as well. Now, I have a bit of a joking grudge against Mr. Longe. I don't know whether he'll remember this, but a number of years ago, I don't know whether he's still a Rocket League regular, but he conned me into joining him into a Rocket League lobby. Bearing in mind, I'm the other side of useless when it comes to Rocket League. And he's doing a lot of things that, kind of champion level kind of aerial maneuvers. And I'm just thinking, yeah, you were telling me you were a similar level to me, sir, knowing full well what you were setting me up for. So I've not forgiven you, Mr. Longe. I've not forgiven you. I don't hold a grudge at all.
Chris doesn't hold a grudge against Nicholas Longe, but anyway, that's the one thing we're taking from this. But anyway, this is the story. We know, but this is what we like to hear. We like to hear little stories like that. So Nicholas Longe, is he focusing too much on Rocket League? Let's wait and see as he comes around to the final corner to begin these runs of Q1. Every car is out on the circuit now, so it's going to get very busy. That's Longe who gets us underway, and he is on the soft compound tires as you would expect in this early stage. Ronar was the last car to come out on the circuit, as he normally does. Likes to be the last car to get onto the track here. Now, I do cringe a little bit whenever I see yellow flags, because normally that means the car is going slowly. And if any of you are familiar with the penalty system on this game, it is very sensitive, and it does give 5-place grid penalties for drivers driving slowly in certain parts of the track. So again, if we manage to get through a lobby without that, I'll be very surprised. But it will be Nicholas Longe get us underway through towards Copse Corner. He'll come up the old pit straight now, and we'll see how he manages to get through here, because these cars are incredible now. Just a slight lift going into Copse Corner now. Don't want to run too wide onto the curb on the left, because it will invalidate your lap. Through Maggots and Beckett's and Chapel now. They're almost not corners in these cars, as you can see, as they come through, still keeping it flat. Rear end stepping out a slight bit on the way through Chapel. Runs down towards the last sector now, looking very, very good for Nicholas Longe. And ideally, you want to get through on just one run each time. We saw Ronar do that last week at Q1 and the Q2 on one set of tyres, meaning he has an extra set to work with in Q3, but it didn't work out for him. He did not get pole. Marcel Kiefer did that. So it'll be Nicholas Longe to get us underway with a 24.864, and that'll be the first benchmark time to beat. But Marcel Kiefer, our pole sitter from last week, beats him immediately.
And superseded again by the second Ferrari, Barry Burman, 124.817. Isran Pookie on the board, 124.974. Now Tom Manley in the AlphaTauri gets 124.784. Otis Lawrence in the Red Bull, 124.818. As we always see with these incredible drivers, the times are so close, even in these banker laps. Wilson Hughes now in the McLaren, 124.725, 3 thousandths of a second ahead of Alfie Butcher, who slots into currently second place. Still some more laps to complete. Well, Josh Adowu in the second Red Bull has come in. Dan Beresney is into the pits as well, so they haven't completed their laps. Lucas Blakely has taken the top spots, 124.581. So even though it's a banker lap, we'll see these times continue to fall. Lucas Blakely showing that he's still that bit quicker than the rest. Well, at least he's got a lap in this time in qualifying. Still some more to complete. Who was that just come over? Jana Watmir. Didn't actually see him cross the line, but it was a 124.764 for the Mercedes. sits him currently in 4th position. Who else is? I think Ronhar is the last one to cross the line. He's up to Vale through the tight chicane and up towards the line. And it is going to be 6th with a 24.776. I think that is all the laps currently on the board. Mateus van Erven is, well, he's pressing on, but he's got some traffic there. So I'm assuming he invalidated his first lap, did he? Yes, he did. So I'm assuming then he'll come back into the pits. Don't tend to see 2 laps done on these soft tyres, although he is kind of getting on with it. He's been balked slightly in the middle of, well, slightly, very much so, in the middle of Maggers and Beckett's. So we'll be seeing him into the pits. Who is going to fall foul of the bottom 5? Who are you here to support? Make your name known in chat, please, ladies and gentlemen. As I thought Mateus van Erven was actually going to go for another lap there, but no, he's coming into the pits. One place I could definitely recommend watching anything from Silverstone is Luffield. It acts as a brilliant sound box, makes everything louder, which is nothing to be upset about in an F1 weekend. I can assure you of that.
Absolutely, I think it's probably not a coincidence that we have 2 Scotsmen and an Englishman in the top 3 currently here at Silverstone. Lucas Blakely, Wilson Hughes, McLaren 1-2, Alfie Butcher there in P3. Jarno Watmere P4 and Patrick Sepos, like I said, took his first win here before and has taken a pole position also here before. Confidence from McLaren there, Wilson Hughes retiring in the pit lane there. And, well, that could be a bit marginal. He's only got about 4 thousandths to Alfie Butcher behind.
He's only
so
1.5 tenths off the bottom 5.
Exactly,
Well, 2 tenths off the bottom 5 at the moment. That's confident, all right. Marcel Kiefer, last week's pole sitter, straight back out. No time wasted in the second Mercedes. So what can he find? 1:24.838, his current time. A tenth would put him up into 4th. So again, how very, very closely times are. Wow, yeah, we're seeing a very, very quick turnaround. We have got less than 3 minutes. We're in the Banzai phase, as I call it. Although the Banzai phase pretty much started at 10 minutes as everybody came out, everybody is in. Alfie Butcher is following Wilson Hughes' example, being only 3 thousandths behind the McLaren. You can understand, if Wilson's comfortable, I may as well be, but is that going to be a too early call? We will see. Mateus van Erven leaving it later. Oh, that's Ronhar now that's parked it. He's only half a tenth behind Butcher, but still finds himself in 6th as opposed to 3rd, where the Haas currently sits. Ooh, and Sepos now. So 4 of the top 6 have decided to park the cars. Blakely and Altmere yet to do so, yet to decide what they're going to do. Most cars back out on circuit now, the lead of which is Marcel Kiefer.
It is indeed. So you'd imagine with everyone else behind, Lucas Blakely is certainly safe on a 24.5, which he's done on his first run. Altmere sitting for the moment, but I don't see him coming out of the pits yet. I think he's going to stay put. Not to go for another run. So we have everybody from 7th down has decided to come out again. Tom Manley being the highest placed of those, but as he said, Marcel Kiefer will be the first car to go out on a second run here in Q1, get themselves out of the bottom 5. Now we look, there you go, Lucas Blakely retiring from the session, and of course Altmere does not have enough time to come out again, so he will not be taking any further part in Q1 for the moment. So they've all got a hope now, especially Ronhar, that he doesn't have a bunch of people behind him improve for the next while. So as Kiefer gets us underway then for these runs in Q1. You've also got Danny Beres now, who hasn't actually put a time on the board yet. He's left everything on this one run in the late part of Q1. There's Altmere retiring now, so we'll get an idea from Marcel Kiefer. How much is he going to improve by? Will he improve for this time? He'd like to get himself into Q3, of course, from pole sitter last week. He wanted to get himself a little bit further up. He's 4 thousandths down on his best in sector number 1, but we have to wait and see if he can carry that forward. Maybe his first sector was really good the first time, but he's basically matched it anyway. So now he needs improvements in sector 2 and sector 3 to get himself through, and an improvement of a 10th would see him, as Chris said, in P4 going through to the next part of qualifying. But can he find a 10th? Because it is incredibly high speed around here and it's hard to find time. You've got to be committed through this part of the circuit now, through Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel. We'll get an idea of the sector split now. Onto the exit goes Kiefer, gets towards the DRS detection point. He's at 0.08 of a second up right now, so this is looking good for Marcel Kiefer to get himself safely through into Q2, but again needs to keep it together, needs to not invalidate the time here as he exits through Stowe down towards the last few corners now. Again, a return to form for Marcel Kiefer, but he wants to make sure that he secures himself into Q2. Will want to make sure he doesn't get knocked out. Comes around the final corner and goes second fastest with that time. That's exactly what Marcel Kiefer needed, but all in the line for Danny Bereze. Does he get himself through? Yes, he does.
1:24.716 for the singing Hungarian. Next up is one of the Ferraris. It's not our championship leader. It is Nicolas Longuet, the Frenchman, over the line 6th. 1:24.727. These times are bonkers close. It's Otis Lawrence now in 7th. He's crossed the line. Who's next? One of the AlphaTauris, I think. It's Tom Manley up into 4th. Barry Borman up into 2nd, 1:24.705. The times are continuing to tumble. It's not looking good for Ron Hart, Sipos, possibly Jana Watmir. East Van Pookie up into 15th. Oh, he's already out as Jake Benham has jumped up into 2nd with a 24.672. That pushes Pedreño out of the top 5 at the moment. Can he improve? 1:24.8 dead. His time is up into 11th. That pushes Ron Hart out. Sipos is out. Can Matthias van Erven push Jana Watmir out of Q1? Don't know.
No.
Didn't see that.
No, he didn't.
No, he didn't indeed. Oh, Jana Watmir through by the skin of his teeth gets through Q1. So there it is. Lucas Blakely taking the top spot with that single lap, but falling foul of the bottom 5. Not even 0.2 of a second from the top spot is the Alpine of Patrick Sipos, both Alfa Romeos, Thomas Ronhar and Matthias Van Erven, Williams of East Van Pookie, and Josh Adogu in the Red Bull. My goodness me, that was close for Jana Watmir.
Chris, there was 14 drivers separated by 0.08 of a second. That's one of the closest qualifying we have ever seen here in PSGL. Basically a 10th separating 15th up to the top, and 14 were separated by 0.08 of a second. That is the level we are at here in PSGL, and that is the risk that some take going forward. We thought that Ronnar might have gone too early, and he did. Otmir was right on the cusp there in P15, but he did make it through on the single run, which will help him later on. But I mean, guys like Ruben Pedreño, he got himself in as well. Alfie Butcher got himself through. John Evans got himself through there as well in the Aston Martin. Good to see him back as well, but that's insanely close.
Very, very close indeed. Before we head down to Q2, let's have another word from the sponsors. Okay, let's see how Q2 has begun then. Well, you didn't miss anything, because OGs now are cars coming out onto track. They were being led by Alfie Butcher, but one of the Astons has just gone past. It's not John Evans, it is Fab Donoso that has decided he wants to lead this particular train. So straight out on the soft tyres, that is what we come to expect. I haven't set my overlays, apologies. So then Fab Donoso just coming through Marcus and Beckett himself on the next set of soft tyres. Clouds gathering, but not enough to make us think about the weather at this point in time. Doesn't mean it will stay that way. It's good old unpredictable British weather for you. When I went in 2018, it was ungodly hot. We had a six week heat wave when the British Grand Prix happened. So much so that I think there was problems with the tarmac, if I remember. Oh no, the tarmac had not long been fixed and the heat was actually undoing the fixing. But either way, we're not here to talk about that. We are currently watching Fab Donato on his first time lap of the session, 28.5, the benchmark set by Lucas Blakely in the previous session. Not everybody choosing to continue their laps like we saw in Q1. Some people coming out and coming straight back into the pit at the end of the run. Normally scrub sets used for this first lap of the next session. So not expecting 24.5 to be beaten or challenged, but then we were certainly surprised last week, I certainly was, by some of the times we saw in the early runs of Q2 at Hungary last time out. So we'll see what Fab Donato puts on the board as he comes into Maggots and Beckett's once more. And slowly scrub off the speed. Now he chooses to take that last bit, coming through Chapel in 6th, as we're riding on board with Nicholas Longe. He comes down to 5th for that particular corner, so there's a little bit of subtle differences between how each driver takes these corners, down to setup, down to personal preference, etc. Now the cars are equal performance for those unfamiliar with the setup. It is all down to the driver and the setup they use. Over the line for Fab Donato, it's a 24.9, so scrub set of tyres as you would expect for these first runs. Then Alfie Butcher coming over the line. It is. Where does he stop? 25.0. As the Ferrari, whoever that was, has just come back into the pits. Not sure which one of the Ferraris it was. Is that Caraton? It is. Coming over the line now. What does he put on the board? A 24.906. Who is next? Is one of the Astons. It must be John Evans, the only car. He's invalidated his lap, so... or is that a out lap for him? No, that was his timed run. So no time for John in the Aston Martin just yet. So our heavy hitter's still in. But it sounds slightly unfair to say that because everybody in this tier is a heavy hitter of some description. But there are some that hit slightly heavier than others. Some with a bit more of an expectation on their shoulders. We didn't get the poll prediction right last week, so let's have another go at getting it wrong, shall we, Jack?
We did. We got it completely wrong last time. But
that was mainly down to Marcel doing pulling an absolute blinder, and stealing away the top spot. Who are we going for? Chat, make it known. Who are you here to support? Jack, who's your money on for poll?
I'm going to go with Lucas Blakely. He's really strong around here, quite a lot. So I would say Blakely for the moment, but I usually reserve judgment until after Q2. So I'll see I'll see after Q2 is done. But it is very, very hard to call. Because, I mean, like we said, one of the closest Q1 sessions we've had in PSGL with 14 drivers separated by 0.08 of a second. This is the level we're talking about here. You can expect it to be just as close here. But you do have some drivers who just find that little bit extra. I mean, Blakely, his first run was excellent to do a 0.5 straight out of the box. Jake Benham was really solid, about a 0.6 he managed on his run as well. We have to watch out for some other guys as well. Tom Manley, a little bit of an underdog there as well in the AlphaTauri alongside Jake Benham. We'll watch out for Tom Manley for definite going forward as well as more drivers start to appear out on the circuit. So Alvaro Caraton, Fabrizio Donoso, Alfie Butcher, those runs were all on a used set of the soft tyre, but you can expect now these next runs to be on some fresh softs for a lot of these guys as well. And remember, those who got through to this part of qualifying on one set of tyres have an extra set to use, but they won't want to use it to get themselves out of Q2. They want to use them in Q3 so they have more chance of going for pole position. So watch out for that as well as lots more drivers come out onto the circuit now. And I think it is actually Marcel who is one of the first cars out there, but I think it might, just having a quick look here, it might actually be Tom Manley.
Tom Manley, yes.
It is Tom Manley who's making his way slowly down towards Stowe. In the AlphaTauri. We haven't seen Manley in a little while. He's through to Q2, and we'll see how he gets on. Coming around, of course, in his home Grand Prix for Tom Manley. We'll see if he can get himself through to Q3, because he's been impressive, I have to say, Tom Manley. So we'll see how he gets on, but he'll be the first man to do a first proper run around here in Silverstone. But again, we could be proven completely wrong when we get to the end of the lap. But we won't know who's on scrub set, who's on new tyres till the end of these runs.
Very true. Tom Manley, he's going to have the Aston Martin John Evans to overcome. Now, by and large, the drivers are very well behaved. They can recognize that somebody is on a hot lap and will stay out of the way. Sometimes it's just unfortunate, wrong place, wrong time, or wrong decision made. Whatever it is, I mean, there's never any malice that goes on. And see John Evans pulling right over to the left-hand side, staying very much out of the way of Tom Manley as he comes into left field now. It's such a never-ending corner. Do you hug the apex very hard, or do you try and sweep through the tail end of the corner as Tom did? Kind of up to you on that one. Through Cops then towards Magnussen Beckett for the AlphaTauri. Is he going to meet any more traffic? Well, it's the second Aston Martin he would meet up Fabianoso if he were to get on with it. Well, he's certainly going to catch him unless Fabianoso floors it. No, he's well aware of what's going on. And then it's one of the Hasses that Tom's now going to have to navigate. This could get really awkward on the run down the Vale. Nicely done. The Haas stays out of the way. Hopefully the Alpine ahead gets on with it. I think Tom Manley's going to be safe here from traffic. Yes, he is. What time does he get on the board? 24.9. Well, never mind. That was a fresh set. Then 24.588 to put Tom at the top of the table for now.
A great lap that matches Lucas Blakely's best time in Q1 straight out of the box for Tom Manley. So the next car then on the fresh set will be Marcel Kiefer as he comes up to the final two corners now. In his Mercedes, took pole last week. Can he get himself into a chance for the fight this time? Comes across the line, goes to the top, 24.569 he does. Barry Borman slots in behind on a 24.620. Next up to cross the line is Jake Benham, does a 24.619. And now Longay's in the fight now as well, 24.60 for him. More to come though as they come through the final couple of corners now as Danny Beresnay does a 24.64. And then we wait for the two McLarens who are not too far behind each other. Lucas Blakely, who's coming through the final two corners now. So benchmark set by Marcel Kiefer once again. Here he comes through the final two corners then, the reigning F1 Esports champion. What does he do on his first runs? 24.50, finds 600ths of a second. Wilson Hughes going well around Silverstone as well. What does he do in his McLaren? 24.609, the same time as Longay. Why not? Let's make the gaps even smaller as they come up to the line now. Here comes Jarno Watmere. What does he do in his first run? Top of the order, 24.46, goes just 400ths quicker than Lucas Blakely. And Otis Lawrence slotted into P3 while that was going on as well. Still a couple more cars to come. Donoso next across the line in these runs of Q2. Here comes Donoso, goes 10th fastest, makes his way into Q3 for the moment. John Evans, can he get himself through? No, he can't for the moment. It's just in that P12 position. So that's the first runs, but it is Jarno Watmere currently fastest on the 24.462. Lucas Blakely alongside him currently. So the cutoff time currently Fabrizio Donoso on a 24.630. So a little bit close for comfort down in that area. So we'll see who decides to go again, who doesn't, but it is currently advantage Jarno Watmere.
Well, the Flying Dutchman answering the challenge of Lucas Blakely then, albeit just by 400ths of a second. And this is, of course, as we know, just to get through to Q2. But this is where the mind games are still being played. These guys know where they sit in the pecking order. They know who they're realistically fighting. But there is always that element of, I've gone quicker than you. And they may not say it openly. They may not say, I don't worry about the times in league racing. Rubbish. I defy that. I reckon there's always that element of gamesmanship. There's always that element of, I've just shown I'm a little bit quicker than you at the moment. It's those little things that attempt to get under the skin of your opponents. Every racer does it. Whether they acknowledge it on public or not, I argue they all do it. And that's part of sim racing as a whole. That's part of a competitive gaming as a whole. Although any kind of competitive sport, let alone on what field that sport is played on, there's always that element of the mental gamesmanship that I can prove that I'm that little bit better than you, even if it's a temporary game. It's all about trying to get in your opponent's head.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all that little gamesmanship, as Chris has been going on about. So, cars coming into the pit lane now. It'll be a tight turnaround for a lot of them, but Alfie Butcher is straight back out onto the track to try and get himself up into the top 10 right now. I think he'd be disappointed if he didn't, as Istvan Pukias, he didn't make it through in the previous session, but he should be able to get himself back in afterwards for this race. So this is going to be an interesting end to this Q2 session. So we have Jarno currently quickest on the 24.4. Lucas Blakely behind Otis Lawrence in there in P3 in the Red Bull this week. Marcel Kiefer, Tom Manley, Longay, Hughes, Benham, Bormand and Donoso, your top 10 currently, to try to get themselves into Q3. Currently in the drop zone by just 100th of a second is Danny Beresnay, second in the championship as well. Needs to get himself through if Barry Borman does get himself through as well. John Evans, Pedreño, Caraton, Butcher, all big names here that are trying to get themselves through into the next parts of qualifying to get for this 6th round of the championship. And now, there we go. So now we're going to have a lobby restart, ladies and gentlemen, because there's the first 5-place grid penalty. We almost got to the end of Q2 without having one, but we will now have a lobby restart because of the silly blocking penalties that the game does continue to give out. But nonetheless, gives us a chance after Q3 to settle before going into the next part. So Lucas Blakely is back out on the circuit now. So that is everybody except Donoso and Otmir at the moment. And I don't see Otmir moving out of the pit lane yet. So again, ideally he wants to save a set of tyres, and he's not coming out. He's the only car that has decided to not come out for the last runs of Q3, while 14 other cars have decided to come out of the pits. So now he's just got to hope that 14 drivers don't improve over his time. But I think 24.462, it's looking pretty good. 0.2 of a second sort of to Longay, Hughes, all that sort of thing. So he may be in a good position right now, but it will be a nervous wait, I think, for Jarno Otmir for the moment. But Danny Beresnay, all the pressure on right now. He delivered last time, but I think he'd want to be further up than where he is now.
Indeed. So, into the loop through Aintree for the Hungarian then in the Haas. Kisses the apex, flat out through Aintree. This is where Kimi Räikkönen had a terrible moment in the Ferrari a number of years back. In to Brooklands. Now, Luffield. Just the never-ending corners. Patience is key. If you stamp on the throttle too early, you're off into the dust and your lap is ruined. Woodcote, flat out. Cops, an overtaking opportunity if you're brave enough. Tiny lift if you're on your own. Screaming towards Magatle. As much as these engines scream, you know what I mean. Starting to run over the apexes, just scrubbing up the speed as much as you need to and no more. Utilising the runoff area on the exit of Chapel. Now, Hanger Straight, where a number of tyres exploded back in the day. Checker flag is now out. It is all or nothing for this session. Through Stowe, down towards Vale. Again, patience is absolutely paramount here. You can throw everything away just by hitting the gas too early. Through Club, and that's second for Beresnay, just a couple of tenths off of Otmir. So who's got Alfie Butcher? Anything you can do, I can do better by 0.008 of a second from his teammate. Marcel Kiefer slots home in 6th. Who is next? It is going to be Tom Manley, second with a 24.477. Who's getting nervous as they are continuing to fall towards the drop zone? Caraton of the Williams into 6th. That was Longay, 9th. That's not looking too hot at the moment. Who is next is Benham, up into 4th with a 4.8. Whoa, new pole time. It is Boromond. 1:24.456 pole time in this session, you know what I mean. Still 4 drivers, and John Evans is out. He cannot, 24.679, but he came into the pits anyway, so he had consigned himself to leaving this session. So Longay is out, Pedreño is out, Can Wilson, no, Wilson Hughes is off at the last corner. Oh, what did I say? Patience is paramount, and it's all gone wrong for the second McLaren at the final turn, which is Club, and it's Donoso is the last one to retire or will be knocked out of the session. The one squeaking through just his last week's pulse to Marcel Kiefer barely hangs on. 300ths of a second separating him from the drop zone.
Great call from Jarno Otmir, wasn't it? Not only one driver managed to go faster than him on that run, and it was Barry Borman. So now, well, the poll predictions are all thrown up in the air now, because we've got Barry in the mix. We've got the top 6 are in the same 10th, or actually separated by 3/100ths of a second. Barry Borman down to The next car, which is Tom Manley down there, or Danny Beresnay, excuse me, 0.03 of a second. You see half a tenth down to Caraton and a tenth down to getting knocked out, basically, for Marcel Kiefer on the edge right there. But Barry Bormand just pipping Jarno Otmir by 0.05 of a second. Tom Manley and Alfie Butcher separated by 1,000th, and then 0.08 back is Jake Benham. 1,000 back from him is Danny Beresnay. Lucas Blakely, Alvaro Caraton, Otis Lawrence through to Q3 as well, and Marcel Kiefer making it through. But we will lose Nicholas Longe. He'll be disappointed with that. Ruben Pedreño, Wilson Hughes, Fabrizio Donoso and John Evans knocked out in this part of qualifying. So now who's your prediction for pole? Because it's so close. It's incredible. But you could see there, Jarno now has that extra set of tyres. Everybody else did an extra run, but he's got one extra fresh set now to work with.
Oh, well, make your predictions known, Watsy. We have one more word from the sponsors. Well, who are your predictions for? Is it going to be Jarno Otmir? Is it going to be current championship leader Barry Bormand? Will we have a surprise in the mixture? Beresnay, Manley, Butcher, or Benham? Marcel Kiefer did it last time. Can he do it again? Otis Lawrence and Carrington in with a chance, but all of them up against the current champion of Lucas Blakely, who has the vote of the Canaan. Oh, now I'm not one for following the I'm not one for following the trend on this one. I'm one to throw a curveball occasionally. That's so difficult though. I'm looking at three names, and they're three really predictable names, which is Lucas Blakely, Jarno Otmir, and Barry Bormand. So I'm going to vote Alfie Butcher. Why not? If we had a surprise last week, we may well have one this week. So yeah, I'm going to throw that one out there.
I mean, it's not a bad call, isn't it? I mean, you've got to throw Tom Manley in the mix there as well. He's getting a lot of calls for Tom Manley pole, which wouldn't be a bad call either. It's hard to predict here because, well, we got it totally wrong last week with
yes, we did.
Marcel Kiefer stealing lap right now. And well, there's one man who we sort of haven't mentioned and has sort of snuck in under the radar, and that's Alvaro Caraton, who's made it through to Q3 as well in the Williams. Otis Lawrence is also not a bad shout for pole position here. Basically anybody right here could potentially take pole position, but the top two, the top time from Q1 was Lucas Blakely, top time from Q2 was Barry Bormand, so we will see who is going to be able to take pole position here. Could Danny Beres get himself into pole position? He started on the front row last time, but would like to go one better. Could be anybody. It's anybody's game here at Silverstone. We will see who's going to hook up the lap together, because I have a feeling we're going to have a field spread of about maybe 0.03 of a second.
Yeah, wow, that's an interesting gambit to put out there. Bearing in mind, ladies and gentlemen, it takes the average person 1/10 of a second to blink, and in this field, 14 cars have passed you by the time you have blinked. That really puts into perspective how close everybody is. All 10 cars are now out on field. Lucas Blakely and Jarno Otmir, the two probably heaviest hitters of this, or two of the heaviest hitters of this group of 10, were the last ones out there. It was almost like they were doing a Mexican standoff. They were waiting for the other to react, but it was the Mercedes ahead of the McLaren as far as who left the pit lane first. This current conga line being led by essentially my wild card pole prediction of Alfie Butcher. He's being, he'll probably be feeling the pressure of those right behind him. So Tom Manley is the AlphaTauri directly behind the conga leader, and then it is Danny Beresnay in the second house, and then quickly followed by, I think it's Otis Norris. No, it isn't. It must therefore be Alvaro Caraton. That's the fourth car in the lineup. Look, look how close that the spread in 4 cars are. There really is going to wait for somebody to drop the hammer and get on with it. Is someone going to try and pick up a bit of slipstream? Well, we haven't really seen it at all. Straights are not really long enough to make for a big slipstream effect, or make a big benefit from slipstream, I should say. Alfie Butcher on his way. Let's see how he does that. Screams toward. I also screams. These things don't scream, but it's old habits die hard. Abbey, Farm, now Village. First breaking zone of the lap. Just run over the apex as much as you dare. Get over to the right hand side as much as you can to open up the line for the loop. Now Aintree, flat out left hander unless you're in the wet or unless you're in a fight. And then hug that right hand side to keep the line as open as possible for Brooklands. Down a few gears and then the never-ending Luffield. Now generally the drivers are they're not hugging that inside line, they're trying to open up the line to cut back to the apex for the exit of Luffield, because you're on the gas for a while through Woodcote, through Copse now. Barely a lift, if a lift at all, through Copse then. Magus and Beckett's the most famous, or one of the most famous corner sequences in the world. Down into 6th. Use as much of the runoff, even flirting with the green AstroTurf on the outside line coming through Chapel. All the way down the hangar straight, then open up the line for Stowe. Now, are we going to see any used tyre runs, or are we going to be jumping straight on the fresh tyres? Vale chicane. Careful with the sausage curbs, they will catapult you into space. Final turn. What is the opening lap? It's a 24.4. Well, they aren't used tyres on the Haas. Who has got an answer to this? Manley, 24.6. Beresnay, 24.4 himself. Caratal, a 24.5 for the Williams. Who is next? It's Benham with a 24.8. Well, that was probably a used set. Otis Lawrence, a 24.5. And it's going to be Marcel Kiefer. The German over the line, 124.6 for him. Then it is our sole Ferrari, Barry Burman. The man from Iran, 24.560, slots in into 5th at present. What about Jarno Opmeer? The big fan favourite in the world of F1 esports. It's a 24.3. Oh my goodness me, does Blakely have an answer? Oh, you bet he does. A 24.281. Oh my goodness me, talk about gamesmanship. Is anything you can do. I have an answer to it already. We still have one more run left in the session. Where would this lap time end up?
24.2 from Lucas Blakely, straight out of the gate on the first run on the tyres. Lucas Blakely beating Jarno Opmeer for the moment, but we still have more to come in Q3. That's the first exchange here in Q3, but he has got about 0.08 of a second to the good over Jarno Opmeer for the moment. And
that's a stormer, absolute stormer. And we see Barry Burman actually getting a little bit caught up there on in a bit of traffic. Well, we're already facing a lobby restart, so there's no worry about kind of incurring another penalty. That's obviously we know they're possible. But, they've already been triggered. I was starting to get hopeful actually that we weren't going to face a lobby restart, but sadly that is exactly what we're facing. As the field now work their way in, I seem to have lost my co-commentator. Sadly, hopefully Jack can reappear. Otherwise, you'll be stuck with me, I'm afraid, ladies and gentlemen. But what a night we are looking forward to. Our pole time is separated by 0.08 of a second as it stands, but you know that everyone else is going to be setting their very best times or putting in everything they can for this final run. Is everybody back into the pit? Jarno Opmeer. Come on. He's rolling the car as slowly as he possibly can. Maybe he feels that is the best he can do. Oh, there goes Jack. Hopefully he's able to rejoin. Wow. 24.281 from Lucas Blakely, the Scotsman. And straight back out, it's one of the Hasses. It was Alfie Butcher, currently sitting in third. He's No, beg your pardon, it was Danny Beresnay. Singing Hungarian, 24.493 his time. Sees him a couple of tenths off the top spot, which is a comparatively big gap considering what we've seen so far. But out comes the Haas then. For his final run, we're into the Banzai phase. It's the most important Banzai phase of qualifying. So who has got those extra few tenths, or in some cases even a few hundredths, can get positions in this field? Jack, are you back? In spirit, at least. Hopefully, Jack will be able to join us. Unfortunately, my co-commentator having some technical difficulties. But we will...
I am back now, guys, in case you were wondering where I was. I'm not sure what happened. I didn't actually realise I was gone until I didn't hear anything back. So, very interesting right there. But Discord completely crashed on me. So I'm back, but I didn't miss the fun, thankfully.
Oh, no. You've got it all to come. You didn't disconnect from session, as far as I can see.
Yes, I'm still here. I'm still here.
Wonderful.
Very strange.
Wonderful. So then, Danny Beresnay leading the field back out, and it's Jarno's the last car out there again. Well, no, it was Lucas last time, so it is now the Flying Dutchman that has opted to come back out on field. Or the last car to come back out on field, I should say. So who's got the few tenths to find? Well, those that did their runs as we think they did on the used tyres, you would think will have a few tenths to find. Maybe as much as half a second in some instances. But we will see. Danny Beresnay is on his own. He must feel like he's rented the circuit, that he's got no company around him. But away he goes. He's got 2 tenths to find if he wants to challenge that top spot. He should have enough gap between himself and the tail end of the traffic that he won't be held up on this all-crucial run. Everyone else has 50 seconds to actually cross the line. Are they all actually going to cross the line in time to start their final laps? Well, that'll be embarrassing if they don't. No such trouble. We have seen it before, yes.
So I think it's going to be Jarno with the last car to cross the line. I'm sure they would have calculated it, but we have to wait and see whether every car is going to make it. But I can tell you, Danny Beresnay 0.06 of a second up on his best Sector 1 at the moment. So he is on an improvement. Remember, he started P2 last week. We'll see if he can convert it to a potential pole position here. As 8 seconds on the clock, Jarno is going to make it with 5 seconds to spare as he crosses the line right there. So every car makes it across the start-finish lines, and now the shootout for pole can really begin. Danny Beresnay, 10th and a bit up on his best time. This is really good from Danny Beresnay. If he can hook up the final sector, he could be in with a shout here. The Hungarian who started P2 last week is second in the championship. Can he get a pole position here at Silverstone? Comes through the final 2 corners. It looks good for Hungary at the moment as he comes through the final corner. Is it enough for pole? Not quite, 0.02 of a second, but it's front row for Beresnay for the moment.
For the time being, but who is going to be next? It's not Otis Lawrence. He's some way down the field. It's one of the AlphaTauris. It's Tom Manley. Currently 9th, 124.697 his time. What does this one put him? It's third with a 24.325. Next up is championship leader Barry Barman. Where can the man from Iran go? It's the top spot with a 24.250 on the board. Then it is... There was Alfie Butcher, my tip for pole. Well, he's already been beaten, so no such luck there. Tom we've already looked at Manley. Lucas Blakely already into second with a 24.281. Can he overcome Barry Burman? The rest of the time's coming in. Oh, yes, the Scotsman can. 24.210. But what about the Flying Dutchman? Where can Jarno Amir appear? It was P2. Second. So it was Lucas Blakely that has taken the pole spot. But by what margin? We'll have to wait for the table to tell us. Not even 0.04 of a second separating Blakely from Otmere for the front row. Then it is Barry Burman and Danny Beresnay, still not a 10th separating them from the pole spot. Then it is Otis Lawrence and Maso Kiefer on row 3, Alfie Butcher and Tom Manley row 4, and Alvaro Caraton and Jake Benham. Jake Benham not getting a representative time in that final run for row 5. Oh my goodness me. What is the weather going to do? Well, we need to do a lobby restart right now, so we don't know what the weather is going to do at this point in time. But I've still got a sponsored video running there. Jack, I don't have your camera on, so I'm assuming you're still having technical difficulties.
I am sitting here with my camera on, but I'll give you a chance to sort that. But that is incredible. Lucas Blakely and Jarno Watmir on the front row for Silverstone. This is going to be epic once we get this underway. But there is a lot. There's a lot to keep your eyes on here, folks, because we have the two championship leaders are also sharing a row on the second row of the grid for this Grand Prix as well. We will have a lobby restart, of course, once we get everybody back together. Matthias van Erven has the unenviable task of having to set the grid for this. Of course, Jake Benham was the only car to receive a 5-place grid penalty as well. That's never happened. Normally we have multiple, but there's lots of stuff that we have to keep our eyes on, of course. But Lucas Blakely back on pole position. He took one in Bahrain, and now he's starting from pole. Whenever Lucas Blakely starts on pole, he's almost imperious once he gets clear air out in front. But this is going to be epic because he's got Jarno Watmir alongside him on the front row. You got Danny Beresnay and Cole behind chasing him for this. So we'll see. Barry Borman, of course, he's in the championship fight. He's got to think of that as well. But Beresnay needs a result out of this and needs to start closing that gap in the championship.
Indeed so. Silverstone has a number of overtaking opportunities in it. But when you've got a field this close, the problem you face is getting enough of an overspeed on who you're chasing, because you don't see huge time deficits for, certainly in the top, I would say 15. You may start to see a little bit more from those at the back, because they typically have had some kind of first lap incident. They're not that much slower than the rest of the field, certainly not. But generally those towards the tail end, unless everybody has made it through, then you have one very long DRS train. Generally those towards the back have been forced onto an alternate strategy. So when you've got such a tight field, finding that extra bit of pace when you're already pushing at 110% is what separates the good from the great. The real professionals, so to speak, will somehow be able to find that advantage, that chink in the armour over those they're fighting, whereas the rest of us mere mortals are just hanging on for dear life.
Essentially, yeah, we're terrible. This is why we're here and they're there. But that is exactly right. It's about finding that little bit extra. And Lucas Blakely, when he's on form, he always delivers that little bit more. 400ths of a second doesn't sound like a lot, but for these guys, they'll be analysing that for this for a little while longer. Because 400ths in F1 esports is almost like 3/4 tenths elsewhere if we're talking about other championships as well. So they'll be analysing that. But Lucas Blakely, Silverstone, he loves this circuit. Jarno Watmir obviously does as well. Great to see him on the front row again. I think it's been a little while since we've seen Jarno Watmir on the front row since in this past few game cycle or so. So we're excited to see how that gets on. Danny Beresnay, of course, he's on a great run of qualifying at the moment. He started front row last week, third this week. Barry Borman wasn't quite able to keep his streak going. He took 2 pole positions in a row. Now is starting, I believe, P5 he's going to be starting. Just behind, he's starting P4. He's starting right behind Danny Beresnay. So lots to keep your eyes on. We've got, of course, Nicholas Longe starting P11 as well. And he's a little bit further behind his teammate than probably he would have wanted, but watch out for that as well. We've got Ron Har coming from 17th on the grid as well. Watch out for that later on. Fabrizio Donoso coming from there as well, further down the order. And we don't know what the weather's doing yet. We haven't loaded into the session yet. We're just waiting in the lobby for the moment. But championship standings-wise, Barry Borman is 18 points clear at the moment. Point system works 16 points for the win here at PSGL. So he is a race win clear at the moment. So ideally, Danny Beresnay needs to finish in front of Borman this week just to start bringing the points gap down a bit. There's a long way to go in this championship, but I mean, early on, Barry Borman has not finished lower than second, so that just shows you the run of form he's on.
Yeah, absolutely so. And Barry is the one driver that has the luxury of not having to win or not having to push to get the the top spots or as many points as he possibly can. He just has to be consistent and stay out of trouble. He's the only driver that has that luxury, as Jack was saying at the top of the show. He's 18 points clear of Danny Beresnay leading into the strand. That's a full race victory. So he cannot lose the championship lead at this point. It can diminish, certainly, but it's judging by the form we've seen so far, it's more than likely to increase as the season goes on. But all it takes is one or two bad rounds, or certainly one bad one, and a couple of maybe mediocre ones, and that playing field is now completely leveled off. So we are going to have to see. Now, we've loaded into the lobby. We're not down to the grid just yet. All 20 drivers are in, and unrealistically, the weather is set to good. I have problems with this.
Well, we're talking good in a British sense. So what does good mean? We're talking about the UK, but
yeah, true enough.
Let's see. I mean, we've had some insane races when the rain has mixed it up in the middle part or whatever. But let's see how things unfold. If we had a totally dry race, of course, we'd have that strategy mix-up that we love to see. Who's going to choose what tyres? Now, normally last game cycle, we knew exactly what tyres that everyone was going to choose. But we don't really know for the moment. We are going to have guys try different things outside of the top 10. Inside the top 10 as well. They may all go to the same thing or whatever. Will certain guys go slightly harder on the compound or softer to try and get some positions gain? We saw that work for a lot of drivers last week, but will it work around here? Because again, it's probably not ideal to use up your tyres too early on, especially around here. We've seen that before, but drivers are readying up. This is probably the fastest lobby turnaround we've seen all season. We're getting the hang of it now.
Absolutely so. Also, what we saw last week was a huge variety of starting tyres, which is exactly what you were alluding to, Dan. Days of old, everybody went with vast majority of the field all went the same way. Last week, it was almost, we had all three dry tyres represented at the start, almost by even division as well. It wasn't one or two soft runners in a field of hard starters. It was a wide varying mixture. But we are loading into the session now, so let me switch over to the field. It was loading in now, and we will have that question answered very, very shortly. Get your votes in now, ladies and gentlemen. Who's going to reign supreme? Once again, we have our consistent failure to predict the pole starter. That's
I got it right. Just want to point that out.
Oh, true enough, you did. Yes, well, I have a failure to to guess the pole starter. So let us see then. My game wants to behave itself, please. Thank you. When we load down into the field, who has gone for what tyres? Get your predictions in now. Who are you here cheering on? Who is going to take that top spot? Get that in chat now. And my fearless co-presenter is keeping an eye on that, whilst I am failing miserably to point the cameras in the right direction. So then, what's the chat saying, Jack?
Well, a lot of votes. So we have Barry, Jarno currently. Jarno to getting a lot of votes, as you would expect, with everyone around here. But Tom Manley getting a vote in there as well. Lucas Blakely, another one in for Lucas. I mean, I sort of at this point with some of the races we've had around PSGL, you could probably name anybody, and it's probably a valid prediction. We've had two drivers win from 17th on the grid, or outside the top 15, twice in a row this season. Jake Benham did it at Zandvoort. Otis Lawrence did it at Kota, but then lost the victory afterwards. Lots of Jarno Van, Danny Beresnay getting a shout in there as well, starting from P3. Let's watch out for Danny. Here we go then, 4 PSGL titles, 3 F1 Esports titles on the front row. Here we go for the British Grand Prix. It is lights out, and away we go. It's an excellent start from Lucas Blakely from the front row, and just behind him, Jarno Opmeer slots in behind Beresnay, getting the start done on Barry Boorman, slots into P3, starting the challenge. Opmeer and Blakely for the lead right now. Blakely trying to hold the lead right now. Beresnay trying to show himself on the outside into turn 3. They all fan out behind, side by side between Beresnay and Boorman through the next part of the corner. Otis Lawrence trying to hold on to P5 versus Marcel Kiefer, who's had an excellent start as well, side by side down the straight. Kiefer versus Lawrence. Beresnay showing himself to the inside on Opmeer, can't quite get it done. Kiefer side by side.
No!
Good Borman, round goes Kiefer, side by side contact with Borman, round goes Marcel Kiefer, and he will drop to the tail of the order. Not what he wanted, but apart from that, our top three cleanly away. Blakely leads Upmere, leads Beresnay, who was very, very feisty on that opening lap, but a little bit of contact and Marcel Kiefer drops to the back.
And it was the tiniest contact as well that has sent the German, the pole starter from Hungary, down to the tail end of the field. So we'll see if he's able to recover. A safety car will certainly do it. We'll see how he does for the rest of the race. Then look at riding on board with Danny Beresnay. Already the conga line is dancing from left to right. Denosa and Benham swap round. Carroton and Butcher swap round. Ronha is trying to make some gains at the tail end of the field. Mostly soft starters this time, but again, all tyre compounds represented, and that is Sipos out. Why? What on earth happened to Patrick Sipos?
Car is stopped in the final sector there. I didn't actually quite catch what was happening there, but his car is stopped on the infield. But no safety car, no virtual safety car. We carry on in this part, so not entirely certain what happened to Patrick Sipos there, but he's the first retirement from this race. But the end of lap 1, Blakely leads Upmere, leads Beresnay, and they all settle in for the moment, apart from Donoso, who has made one hell of a start. Up to P9 comes Fabrizio Donoso on the charge, up the inside of Alfie Butcher, and now he slots in behind Nicholas Longa, who started P11, has made up a few places on that one as well. Fabrizio up 5 places from where he started. Having a look at the tyre strategy, actually not as mixed up as we would have thought. The top 9 are all on the soft tyre. Alfie Butcher, though, he's on the hards. Jake Benham and John Evans are on the mediums. Then you've Ruben Pedreño and Matthias Van Erven also on the hard. So a lot more soft runners, as you said, than we would have expected. But some drivers trying something different. So Alfie Butcher, not unexpectedly losing all those places because he's on the hard compound tyre, but if he can stick with these guys, it might work out for him later. But it's all about making track position now. Nicholas Longue on Caraton, having a little look in towards Stowe, has the inside, shows his nose in the inside, gets a little bit out of shape, and Caraton just slots inches in front round the outside of Stowe corner. But Longue wants to make places, wants to get up towards his teammate, but the end of this lap right now, Blakely still comfortably in the lead right now, but DRS will be enabled.
That's it. So fair play to Alfie Butcher for hanging on to the soft runners up ahead. Isran Puki also having a difficult start. He dropped to the tail of the field and he has parked it. That's a shame to see. Marcel Kiefer doing what he can on the soft tyres. The worst possible tyre to have a problem on. If he was on the hard tyres, he could at least, carry on pushing, knowing he would be coming in later anyway. But now he's got to either change his strategy, or he's going to pit at his normal time. He'll be a very long way behind the field. We'll see what he chooses to do. Donoso still staring at the back of Longue. Ooh, the Aston Martin getting a little bit uncomfortable coming out of left field, but still keeps it on the straight and narrow. Barry Burman is in the tyre tracks of Danny Beresnay, who is staring at the back of Jarno Watmere, who is keeping Lucas Blakely company. So that conga line is everybody except for Marcel Kiefer. So the German is very much out at sea at the moment. He can see everybody ahead of him. Actually, well, we can't from that particular camera, but he can when he gets on the hangar straight. There we go. We just saw somebody there. So, oh dear, a great shame for Marcel Kiefer, but it's all to do for the Scotsman up front.
Yeah, DRS train is in full effect right now, so you can expect Lucas to be in full management mode, as will everybody else behind him. So he's going to be now just leading this big long train of cars. Lucas Blakely, Jarno Watmere, Danny Beresnay, Barry Borman and Otis Lawrence inside the top 5. Currently here in the final points paying position is Alfie Butcher. Remember, he's on the hard compound tyre, so watch out for him later on in this Grand Prix. But Lucas Blakely, the reigning F1 Esports champion, the 2-time F1 Esports champion, right behind him, the 3-time PSGL champion, chasing down the 1-time PSGL champion. Great pedigree in this top 2, as well as Barry Borman, the reigning PSGL champion, currently sitting in P4 for the moment. And Otis Lawrence, the youngest winner in PSGL history, sitting behind him there, P5. 15 years of age is Otis Lawrence, approaching Challenger's age, so he'll be wanting to get himself hopefully get into Challengers when he possibly can, but he's certainly showing that he has the capability to do it. But Jarno Watmere really closing up to Blakely, coming through Maggots, Beckett's and Chappell here, and it's almost like Blakely backing off slightly here because, well, DRS is so powerful There's almost not even any point in trying to defend here. Here comes Jarno Watmere then up towards Stowe corner. Blakely's not going to fight this one, and Jarno Watmere will lead the British Grand Prix.
Yeah, these guys know exactly what to expect, and where Lucas knew exactly what he was doing, put his car in the middle, but knew that the outcome was inevitable as Jarno Watmere, the Flying Dutchman, takes over the lead for now. Ron Hart makes another position. That's Joshua Dowu. That's the Alfa Romeo has now has just overtaken, but the rear tyres probably get a little bit toasty on the Alfa Romeo as the tail steps out a little bit, but he catches that one quite nicely. Otis Lawrence getting very close to the back of Barry Borman, the current championship leader, the champion and champion-elect, as Alfie Butcher has just gotten past Fab Tinosa. Well, he hasn't quite done it. Side by side coming through Abbey. My goodness me. Coming now down towards Brooklands. And Alfie Butcher has managed to get past the Aston Martin. I can't get any of my words out. Goodness me. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Every word is going wrong. And again, Donoso, that car looking a little bit uncomfortable. Has he burnt the best out of those soft tyres already? Well, you were saying, Jack, that he did have a really good stormy start. Is he now paying the price for it?
Quite possibly, because Alfie Butcher's on the hard tyres, don't forget. So the fact that he's made the move is not good news for Donoso, or maybe even any of the soft runners, because Butcher is stuck with them despite everything up at the front end here. Let's see if he can make any further moves as we head down towards Stowe corner again. Lap 5 of 26. Blakely just getting close to Watmere, but deciding not to go for the overtake. Jake Benham, though, fancies to go around the outside. Contact. Wilson Hughes is round in Stowe corner. There was contact midway through the corner, and Wilson Hughes will drop to the tail of the field now after contact, and Ronar's off the road now as well. Ronars was involved in the middle of that as well. He had to take avoiding action as Wilson Hughes was in the middle of the road. Had to take to the grassy verge, and Ronar now drops back to P16. Bit of a cluster there, but Benham and Hughes making contact through the middle of Stowe corner, and unfortunately Wilson Hughes now drops to 17th place, but still comes out in front of Marcel Kiefer, who's obviously dropped behind because of that early instance in this race. But lap 6 of 26, 20 laps still to go in this Grand Prix, and Jarno Watmere still at the front of the field, but everybody else, you can be sure, is managing this right behind the Flying Dutchman. Right here is there's a cluster. I can see that cluster going on here between John Evans and Ruben Pedreño. This is going to get 3 wide for a moment. And Irvin, you can't put your car there, but he does. So 3 wide down the straight. They make contact. They're somehow still going. Van Irvin's on the inside of Kopp's corner, still neck and neck through the corner. Matthias keeps his footing on the inside, and he takes 2 positions through Kopp's.
How on earth did that not end up a very uncomfortable mess on the outside of Kopp? I don't know. Because they are some of the best in the business, ladies and gentlemen. That's why. But riding on board with Thomas Ronar, he had a great ringside seat for that entire battle going on. And again, it's still continuing. My goodness me. Pedreño giving John Evans a bit of a tap on the side. Coming through Stowe as he now retakes 14th place. No, that fight's still not done. Still side by side through Vale. Here comes Ronar to try and get involved in this particular fight as well. Whether you're first or 15th, you've got someone to play with at the moment. This is why I love league racing. Absolutely great stuff. We've got close battles all over the place. Still riding on board with Ron Hart. There's still plenty of potential in this battle, along with plenty of others through the field.
Yeah, the problem is now is that that battling has dropped them out of DRS to the train in front, so they're 1.7 back, and they're going to have to work hard to get back into this now. So that's the cost of racing that hard this early on. But I mean, I'm not going to complain, because that was a bit of insanity in the middle sector right there as they came through Kopp's corner. But Matthias van Erven was the beneficiary, and he's now trying to get away from Josh Ito and co. Ruben Pedreño, John Evans, Thomas Ronar are right behind as well. So lap 7 of 26. Jarno Watmere still in the lead here. Lucas Blakely, though, keeping him honest. Right behind for the moment, and he's keeping him very close through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. Sort of feel like he might swap over here on the exit of Chapel if he decides to do so, or will he decide to sit behind for another lap here? No, he's going to go for the switcheroo. Here he comes into Stowe corner. Blakely retakes the lead. Then no fight put up by Jarno Watmere whatsoever. He's happy to get back in the slipstream of the reigning F1 Esports champion, of course. But these two working with each other, and well, I don't think it's going to be as friendly maybe later on in this race.
Well, you say they're working together, but they're not breaking away from the like of Beresnay, Borroman, Lawrence, Manley, or indeed the rest of that train. There's no gap forming up front. So I think they're just they're waiting for one of them to pit. They're all staring at each other, waiting for someone to pull the trigger. That's what I think they're waiting for at the moment. If they were working together, I would expect them to have built up quite a sizable gap up front at the moment, which just isn't there. Or Danny Beresnay is doing an absolutely superb job of staying in touch with them, which he's certainly got the pace to do, he has the talent to do, but it's no easy feat, no matter how good you are. Staying in touch with that many championship winning drivers is a very, very difficult thing. But again, these guys have been racing against one another for years. They know what to expect from each other. They know where their own cars are going to be stronger. They know down the hangar straight is where the potential for the slipstream is just going to be unbeatable. They've played this game figuratively and this one literally many times over. Jarno Opmeer closing to the back of Lucas Blakely, but Lucas didn't feel the need to defend fresh air. He didn't feel under pressure. He knew what was going on, so stuck to the racing line. Jarno could have absolutely banzaied the inside of Stowe there, but it would have been a somewhat desperate manoeuvre and too early. There's no need to be making manoeuvres like that at this stage in the game. So they've got time. If we were looking at the final few laps, I can understand it. John Evans has had enough. He has parked his car. That's 3 retirements before we've even hit lap 10 here in Silverstone.
Yeah, he decided to bring it into the pits, so that's not going to be a finish for John Evans, unfortunately, but his teammate Fabrizio Donoso still running in P10. So now we're on lap number 9 of 26. We only have one car, as far as I can see, inside that top 10 who's on an alternate sort of strategy here, which is Alfie Butcher and Jake Bennett. Jake Bennett's just outside the top 10, but Alfie Butcher is the only car inside the top 10 on a set of tyres that's not the soft tyre. He's on the hard compound tyre, is Alfie Butcher. So we'll see how that will come into effect later on when he has to pit, but he will of course be able to go longer than some of these guys. But we'll see now how the soft runners are getting on, because now it's basically a game of chicken. Who decides to come into the pits first and try and undercut each other, or do they decide to stay out longer and get the fresher tyres at the end? That is the big question. So what is the strongest part now? What's Lucas Blakely thinking? What's Jarno Opmeer thinking as they come on to the back straight once again? I feel like Jarno's going to take this lead once again. Yes, he is, up the inside towards Stowe Corner. No fight by Blakely once again, and through they go. Jarno Opmeer back to the front of the order right now. These two working well with each other. Danny Beresnay just sitting in behind, just watching. Doesn't want to get himself involved in this too much, but of course if it was later on in the race, you can be sure that he'd be maybe pushing it 3 wide through certain corners if he possibly could. But half a second now to Blakely is the gap from himself to Beresnay. Burman's still in there as well in P4. Otis Lawrence holding P5. No pit stops from anybody just yet, but it's Jarno back to the lead.
Well, just as you say that, Marcel Kiefer has decided to bring his car in. He's had enough of these soft tyres, so that's going to be straight onto. Is it going to be hards or mediums he's going on to? It's mediums he's wanted to take to the end. They'll be a little bit uncomfortable probably by the time he gets there, but he's got nearly 10 laps out of the softs, so getting another 16 or so out of the mediums doesn't seem entirely unreasonable, with the car being a bit lighter as well, with the fuel load burning down. We'll see how that plays out for Marcel as the rest of the field continue along their merry way down the old start-finish straight through Copse once more. A little bit of a gap forming now between Blakely and Beresnay. Join this queue if your surname begins with B. Your second, third and fourth. Blakely staying in the tyre tracks of Jarno Opmeer. Jarno taking a bit of a different line through Maggotts and Beckett's, which has given him a more comfortable line through Chapel. But nothing that Lucas Blakely won't essentially undo before they come through Stowe. And that is our race leader who's come in. So Jarno Opmeer opting now. It's the time to get rid of his soft tyres, along with Beresnay, along with Caraton, and along with Longuet. So that gives the race lead back over to Lucas Blakely. Now, what is Barry Borman going to do? He's just about got DRS range. I think Blakely is pushing, because suddenly that gap has kind of gone up by 2 or 3 tenths in the last few corners. I think Blakely is now going to push like mad to burn up whatever he's got left in those soft tyres. One, to keep Barry Borman at bay, but equally he wants to get the position from Jarno. Everyone that's come in has gone on to the medium tyres. So let's keep an eye then on how that filters out for our fresh pit stoppers. Jarno at the front of the train, as you would imagine. He was the first one to come in. So no one swapping around, or certainly no one leapfrogging Jarno for the pit stops alone. The big question is, where is Lucas going to appear, assuming he pits this time around? By how hard he's pushing, I think that's exactly what he's going to do. Where are you going? That's a somewhat explorative line coming through Cops, but that just shows that he's pushing very hard on very dead tyres.
Yeah, so Lucas, I think he's got to respond immediately now, because you could tell Jarno was burning up the ERS towards the end of the lap as well, and decided to opt to come in. He's trying to keep Barry Borman at bay, his old teammate, of course, right now. Otis Lawrence putting some pressure on him, so you'd expect Blakely to be into the pits now, and he is. Barry Borman will follow in, as will Otis Lawrence. Alfie Butcher, of course, he's the only car that's not on a different strategy here. He's going to stay out. He's on the hard compound tyre, so now we are just going to have to wait and see where does Jarno filter out compared to Blakely. Now, of course, he'll have a lap fresher tyres, but of course it's a long pit lane here at Silverstone. It's a long pit entry. Mediums were put on for Jarno Watmere. Expect the same for Lucas Blakely. Stop for McLaren, and it is going to be the medium tyres put onto the McLaren. Now we wait to see where Jarno is going to filter out. Lucas on his way down the pit lane. Borman will also be with him here. Jarno about to exit the final corner now, running towards turn number 1. Will he have the overspeed here as he heads towards the first corner now? Flick to the right, watch for Blakely on the right-hand side. I think Jarno will have enough to undercut side by side, and Beresnay will slot in front as well. So it is 2 positions lost without undercut, but Jarno now gets the jump by going early, maintains P1, but Beresnay undercuts Lucas Blakely.
Oh, Danny Beresnay called it right by following Jarno up here into the pits instead of Lucas Blakely. Well, is that going to be frustrating for the Scotsman? That's probably not what he would have wanted, but he'll have a strategy in mind on how to overcome it. But what he wouldn't have anticipated would be the Hungarian in between himself and his prey. Well. Nicholas Longo was getting very close to the back of Lucas Blakely at that point, but no change in position at the moment. Our top 4 now is Alfie Butcher, Jake Benham, Ruben Pedreño, and Mateus Van Erven and Ruben Pedreño. A little bit spread out. There's somewhat 2x2 rather than 1 group of 4. As Pedreño has got a problem because he's very, very slow before he's even got to the pit lane entrance. So a potential problem there for Pedreño, as Danny Beresnay through on the inside of Stowe has just gotten ahead of Jarno Watmere. Well, what does that mean for the race lead? Well, I mean, once the pit stops are done, that of course puts Danny Beresnay into a potential race leading position. As Alvaro Caraton has reminded us he's still with us, scoring the fastest lap. Never mind, we now play fastest lap tennis. What is Jarno going to do? Because he would not have wanted Danny Beresnay to have jumped him through Stowe. We didn't quite see the move happen, but I suspect the Hungarian caught the Dutchman by surprise. We have a yellow flag. Is that it's not for Caraton, is it? No, it's someone is having difficulty getting out of the pit lane, it would seem. But all eyes at the moment are at the front. Danny Beresnay in the net race lead.
Yeah, he is. Jarno P2, Lucas Blakely P3. Nicholas Longue has worked his way into this as well as Caraton. So they managed to undercut Bormand out of those as well. But this is going to get feisty now. It's the top 3 here. Jarno Watmere, Lucas Blakely, Nicholas Longue. And these couple more that we had. Beresnay, of course, in the net race lead now. But do you want to be that first car? Because we see how DRS is very powerful here. So Jarno will not be too displeased to be out in front as well, because Lucas Blakely has used up a lot of his ERS to try and maintain the track position. So he doesn't have it, but Otmir now working with Beresnay, swapping around, retakes that position for the moment. So we will see how this is going to end, because this is going to be fascinating. Bormand all over Caraton, forcing him defensive into the last 2 corners. Almost runs into his teammate. Going to the final 2 corners, misses the braking point entirely. Otis Lawrence says, "Thank you very much, I'll have that."
That was so close to impact between Borman and Otis Lawrence then. The man from Iran looked like he overshot the braking point coming into Vale, but no impact there. If there was an impact, it was a very glancing blow between himself and Otis Lawrence. He's now got the Aston Martin R Fabrizio Donoso to contend with, along with Tom Manley. So that is not how the championship leader would have wanted his race to go on. And Lucas Blakely getting out of the slipstream of Danny Beresnay, curiously. So not wanting to follow too closely behind the Haas at this point. Was he trying to keep Nicholas Longley behind. Well, there was no real challenge made, so quite why the McLaren went to the middle of the track along the straight, I don't entirely know, but, and again, he's staying out of the slipstream of the house coming down towards Cops. I can't particularly answer for why, but either way, he's still keeping himself in contention of that top 3.
Yeah, doesn't want to get caught up in that slipstream too much. Again, he's really on the back of Berezny now. He also wants to save up ERS because he's got 30%. Berezny's got 90. So here we go towards Stowe Corner now. Blakely comes out. Berezny will swap with Otmir up towards the front now. Blakely staying behind, but Berezny retakes that net P1. We still have yet to see stops from Alfie Butcher, Jake Benham and Matthias van Erven. Blakely had a little look at Otmir there as they came into the final 2 corners, but these guys still very much stacked up in this top train for the moment. But it is Otmir in the net race lead. It is Berezny in the net race lead, Otmir in P2, and then it is Blakely in P3 for the moment. But Blakely now needs to try and save up ERS. He's got 30%, Otmir's got 80, Berezny has got 85, Longa has got 40% battery at the moment. So there is still lots that can happen here, and everybody is so stacked up down towards, that'll be Tom Manley, who's at the end of that train here as they come down into Brooklands for the break-in zone right now. But it's anyone's game right now, but Berezny looks good out there.
He does, and you can't say he's lucked into this. This has been his raw pace that has kept him in contention of this top group. There's still plenty of squabbling going on, and look at that. That's Jarno and Lucas kind of dancing with each other essentially. The McLaren not wanting to follow in the tyre tracks of the Mercedes at this point. He wants the momentum on the hangar straight. So Alfie Butcher is in. So he's deciding the mediums. Now is the time to go for mediums. Jake Benham's chosen to continue. Here comes Jarno Otmir to bounce past Berezny once more. I wonder if Lucas probably thought whether he should try and bounce past as well, but no room to do so as Otis Lawrence Navarro Carrota swap round and nearly come to grief coming through Vale. Where will Alfie Butcher reappear? Well, he's going to appear behind this train. I think it's easy to see. There goes that, a big long queue. The hard starting Alfie Butcher is going to be at the back end of it. It's going to be 13th, is it? Yeah, that's that strategy not paying off for the youngster at the moment. So Jake Benham is, he's out there on his own at the moment, but that gap is disintegrating as you would expect. Barry Borman, don't discount him. He got very close to the back of the Williams of Carroton just now. That's everyone's biding their time. They're trying to force that mistake, distract the driver ahead of them. But everyone is doing the same thing. Everybody knows this tactic. So who's going to get the advantage? Berezny has actually got himself a comparative gap between himself and his chasers, or he did for a brief period of time. That's not going to stay when they get down the hangar straight. That much you can guarantee.
Yeah, Borman really wants to get by Carroton at the same time as well. Remember, Borman just missed his braking point, lost the 2 positions to Otis Lawrence and Coe in front, so he'll now try and get front, but he doesn't really have the ERS to do it as they come down the straight here once again. Longa going defensive, but Otis Lawrence is on the attack on the inside of Stowe. Gets side by side with the Frenchman down towards the last 2 corners. Longa will try and keep his foot in. He does. They leave each other room coming to the next power. Longa will try and run him out of room. Otis says no thank you. Carroton will try and get through on the inside as well at the same time, but Donoso capitalises on that 2x2 contact right there, and he gets himself through up in front of Borman and in front of Carroton at the same time. Lawrence made the move, but for now he's up into what is currently P4, but Donoso, he's really come through, hasn't he?
That was a brilliantly opportunistic move from Fabrizio Donoso, capitalising on the battling ahead of him, and that's put him on the back of Longa. Like I said before, these two have duelled many times before. Jake Benham onto the soft tyres and down into 14th as a result of his strategy not quite going his way. I can't see that he's going to be able to climb all the way up, but we will see. Blakely getting close to Otmir once again, but getting close to Berezny once again, beg your pardon. This is essentially almost roles reversed from last time around, except it's Otmir leading Berezny this time. Otis Lawrence still very big in the mirrors of the McLaren as Jake Benham and Wilson Hughes are having a bit of a squabble coming down towards Maggins and Beckett's And there's our first track limits penalty. Here's Mateus Van Erben from the tail end of the field. Oh, wow. I thought we were going to see 3 wide coming down into Stowe then. Side by side for Beresney and Blakely. The Scotsman having to yield, but wow. Danny Beresney just basically saying, you may be the champion, sir. You may be the esports champion. I'm giving you just as much of a fight as I would anybody else. Fair play, Danny Beresney.
I tell you what, Blakely was braving it round the outside. Beresney, I don't think he even saw him coming until he was alongside him there, but Blakely is trying his best to try and stick in there. I'm not counting out Alfie Butcher yet, Chris, because he's pulled a second on Caraton on that previous lap on the fresh tyres. Do not count out Alfie Butcher just yet as we get towards the end of this race now, but it's still Otmere from Beresney from Blakely. Blakely fancied a chance around the outside that time, backs off early into Brooklands this time before he gets into the braking zone. He's trying to also save a bit of battery coming through into Luffield. Lifts off now, but tell you what, Blakely really fancies a chance on Beresney. Wants to try and stick with Otmere here as he comes down in towards Cobbs. Look at the train of cars. Caraton, and there's Alfie Butcher, just a few cars back. You can see him there. 1.3 is the gap to young Alfie Butcher, so watch out for him when he gets into the fray now. He's got much fresher tyres than everybody here, so let's see if he can make them work. It's one thing catching up, it's another trying to make the moves again past all of these guys, but let's see how this one unfolds as they head down towards Stowe once again, the 18th time. I don't think there's going to be any moves made this time by Settles for the moment, but Alfie Butcher is almost within DRS of Caraton as Ronar gets past Josh Edo, and he's up to P11 right now. But Alfie Butcher 1.2 seconds back from the lead train and has the freshest tyres.
He's knocking on the door, just getting inside DRS range of that lead train. Has he got enough time to make an impact on the cars ahead of him? We will see. Everybody is just now in that position of biding their time. Those at the back of the train would probably want to be able to push, excuse me, to get towards the front end of it, but have they got enough pace difference to do so? That's going to be the ultimate question. It's now Alfie Butcher joining that. Like you say, Jack, with the tyre advantage, could well climb his way through that field. So that makes the DRS train all of the points paying positions. The first 10 cars now in each other's tyre tracks, riding on board with Alfie Butcher. Is he going to already make a move? I've lost Jack once again. Oh, he's gone around the outside of Caraton. He's gone around the outside of Alvaro Caraton. My goodness me, Alfie Butcher is not biding his time in the slightest. What a move! I bet that caught Caraton by his. I bet that caught Caraton out. You still with me, Jack? Hopefully so. He's having Discord trouble. Here comes Butcher again. Is he going to have a go? I thought he was going to have a go on Tom Manley then, but didn't quite have the momentum to do so. Although Manley now gets the inside of Barry Burman coming into Stowe. That's given the pace advantage back to Alfie Butcher. He's got one. He's going to line up the other. So 3 wide coming down the Vale. That was not ever going to work. Alfie Butcher coming off much, much worse. All the hard work has just been completely undone by Alfie Butcher trying a 3 wide into Vale. Oh, that was a little bit too desperate there from the youngster, I think.
Looks like it as they came through into that. I came back to see him almost wedged on the sausage curb down into the final corner, but that's not what Alfie Butcher needed, and that's basically dropped him out of contention now. So we go on to lap 20 of 26. Danny Beresney chasing down Jarno Otmere. Of course, these two have fought each other quite a lot. Of course, let's forget, he may be in a Haas, of course, but these two are teammates at Mercedes F1 at the Mercedes F1 Esports, so got to keep that in mind as well. But I don't think there's going to be any love lost between these teammates. They're not teammates in this championship, of course, so it'll be all a sort of battle to the flag right now, but great to see Beresney consistently back up at the front again as he now fights with Lucas Blakely, Otis Lawrence, Nicholas Longay, Fabrizio Donoso. Can he finally get himself maybe a win out of this one? He sits at P6, but again, there's a lot that can possibly happen with these last few laps coming up in just a few moments, but it's still Jarno Otmere in the lead. Beresney biding his time though, right behind the F1 Esports, two-time F1 Esports champion. Blakely has been sitting behind, saving up some ERS, of course, trying to make sure that he can fight once it does get to that stage. Otis Lawrence, though, sitting and waiting in the wings there in P4, as is Nicholas Longay and everyone behind, because anything can happen in these last few laps as we cross the line to begin lap number 21. at this stage. Do you want to be the lead car? It's hard to know as we enter this phase of the race, but it's now a case Lucas Blakely getting close to the same battery charge as the guys in front. He wants to make sure he has enough battery to go on the attack or on the defense, depending on what he needs to do towards the end. But again, wants to be in with a chance. As Will Alfie Butcher, despite getting caught on the curb, is back within DRS, but he doesn't have that ERS charge that he did.
No, very true. Someone is having a bit of fun out there. Jake Benham, he managed to claim Josh Iwu and Thomas Ronhar in the previous lap with some interesting overtaking manoeuvres. So the soft tyres doing well for him at the moment. Are they going to last the end of the race? Probably not with much racing shape left in them. We will see. The DRS train now down to from 1st to 13th. As my sound is now deciding to have an absolute field day. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, it's now choosing to work now that I mentioned that. So Danny Beresnay getting on the back of Jarno, keeping the Scotsman at bay. So many people are so close to one another. So nearly getting into the back of Nicholas Longo there. It looked very close from that camera. Mainly because that camera was on the nose, so that would have been the first thing to introduce itself to Nicholas Longo's diffuser. It's going to take either someone to make a mistake or someone to get fed up of being in this DRS train and really have a push now to make a big difference. We will see. Who's it going to be? It could be a challenge from those towards the tail end of this train to kind of spur on those towards the top end to really make a difference. Again, Blakely getting out of the slipstream of the Haas. Not to make a challenge, just to, either to keep Lotus Lawrence behind. Maybe he's having a bit of a heat issue, who knows. Either way, he's keeping himself known to the mirrors of the Haas, if nothing else.
Does indeed. So it's a case now. This is all sort of shaping up to be a sort of last 2-lap dash to the finish right now. Everyone's biding their time. Blakely has charged up his battery enough now that he could potentially go on the attack. He's so close to Beresnay. Gets into his rear almost. Going through Chapel. Had to save the car as he came through the middle part. Loses the rear end on the exit of Chapel right now. That might leave him vulnerable for a moment to Otis Lawrence, but they all sort themselves out there so close to Beresnay as they went through that part of the lap right there. Has confidence, but has to be careful. Doesn't want to break a front wing or do anything like that. But Beresnay was doing enough there to just keep him bay. Knows you can't make a move there unless you're already alongside. But had to really fight the rear of the car coming through that. But now, lap 23 of 26. Blakely super close to Beresnay as they came through turn 1 in towards turn 2. Does he fancy a lunge? Does he think about it? And he is going to go for it on the inside. Late decision to go on the inside. Blakely has a go going through into turn 2. Will now try line up the switch back on Beresnay, but Beresnay's wise to it. Just has enough of a wheel alongside to warrant the space. 2 by 2 they go towards Brooklands, but Beresnay just does enough to stay in front. Blakely was super late to go for it. Has a think about it into Brooklands again. He really wants to get by, but Beresnay, great defence put up there.
Oh my goodness me. Well, Blakely's had enough of being behind the Hungarian at this point, but that did not yield anything yet. But crucially, that didn't cost them time to Jarno. Jarno wasn't able to break away to any degree. I'm still keeping an eye on Jake Benham. He's dispatched of Alfie Butcher, who is still in this DRS train, just about. But is there enough life left in Jake Benham's tyres? Well, they've done 6 laps to this point, with everyone else ahead of him's done nearly double that. Is there enough for the AlphaTauri to get up towards the top spot? He's got essentially nothing to lose. By really challenging to Blakely and Beresnay side by side through Stowe. Good spot, Jack. My goodness me, the McLaren's just about done it, but here comes Otis Lawrence now trying to size up the Hungarian. Can he get the move done coming out of Vale? Oh no, there's contact between himself and Beresnay. Beresnay's lost a spot to Longo as well. That is not ideal. Oh my goodness me, and all that, Benham's gotten past Carrington as well.
Well, Blakely sent it round the outside of Stowe, made it work, and Beresnay shuffled wide by Otis Lawrence through the final corner. Side by side through there never ever works, and Beresnay unfortunately shuffled back to P5. Now, what does he have to do to try and get something out of this right now? But he's P5, still in the train, but again, now on the back foot slightly as he's in P5 with a little bit less ERS, but still not out of it yet. Upmere, Blakely, Lawrence are the top three. Donoso's in this as well as he tries to get by Beresnay. Longue's watching and waiting in the wings, but now it's Blakely versus Upmere currently for this race win. Through Cop's corner they come again, and you got to feel, does Upmere sort of let him go here? He's got more ERS. Upmere's been sort of sitting here while everything else has happened behind him, and we'll see now. What does Blakely decide to do? Does he decide to go in front, or does he decide to sit behind as they go on to lap 25 at 26? Here they come. Otis Lawrence might be the spanner in the works here. He's trying to find some space here, but they're going to sit behind. Blakely's going to sit behind once again as they try to line up for these 2 laps to go to the end right now. But it's Blakely versus Upmere. But does Upmere have enough to stay in front in this late phase of the race? And what about Lawrence? What about Longue? What about any of these guys could take it yet?
Yeah, absolutely so. You cannot call this just yet. Alfie Butcher's getting very close to the back of Jake Bennett. My sound is absolutely ruined. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. But nothing I can do about it. Oh my goodness me, that was a big moment there for Benham. As he's ping-ponging off of Butcher and Carroton at this point. Has he burned the best out of the soft tyres? I fear he may well have done. His charge towards the front may well have come to an end because Blakely and Upmere for the lead of the race. The McLaren, gets a bit of a nudge from the Mercedes. Here comes Otis Lawrence now. Never going to work on the outside of Lovefield. Oh, really? He says he's going to give it a go anyway. Doesn't quite pay off. Longue is still in there. Danny Beresnay's not that far behind either. Oh, my goodness me. So now Blakely is going to be the one that is going to be immediately under attack into the next DRS zone. But is he thinking strategically here? Because if Upmere makes the move this time, then Lucas Blakely will have the opportunity to attack on the final lap. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Jarno does not make the move on this occasion. I wouldn't be surprised if he does make the move. In fairness, it's getting very close, but he does. So Jarno Upmere back up into the lead. So now Jarno is going to have to floor it to try and keep Lucas Blakely. Oh my goodness! Now Nicholas Longue on the inside line of the first part of Vale to try and get past Otis Lawrence. Doesn't quite pay off. That's given the top two a bit of breathing space. This could be the opportunity that Lucas Blakely has been wanting. Bit of space behind, and with the best opportunity along the hangar straight for the McLaren to retake the lead.
Yeah, this is going to be it, but of course Jarno has more ERS. Blakely didn't really want to pass on the previous lap, but he's left with no option now. Here they come down to Brooklands. Jarno using the ERS down towards Brooklands for the final time. Will he have enough to cling on here? Blakely lunges down the inside. He won't have enough to get alongside here. Side by side slightly for a moment through Brooklands. He goes a bit wide. Blakely's on the inside. He's found a bit of room as they come through Luffield down towards Cop's corner. The two former champions side by side. Jotmir is in front, but there's only a couple more corners to go, and of course we have the long straight towards Stowe. Who's got enough in the tank to try to take a win here? It's anybody's game as they come through Maggots, through Beckett's, through Chapel. It's Blakely versus Upmere. Who's going to have it? Here they go for the last time down towards Stowe corner. It's Blakely versus Upmere for the win here. Upmere goes defensive. Does Blakely have enough to do it? He slots in front. Yes, he does. Blakely gets the move done in towards Stowe corner on the final lap of the race as they head towards the last two corners. He did it when it was enough to do it. He had enough battery. He snatches it at the death. Lucas Blakely wins the British Grand Prix on the final lap of the race. Jarno Upmere is P2. Otis Lawrence finishes in P3. Nicholas Longue gets himself up to P4. Danny Beresnay dropping down to P5 after slight contact. Donoso, Bourmand, Benham, Butcher and Carrots on the top 10. We thought he'd done it too early. We thought he didn't have enough. But who are we to doubt? Lucas Blakely wins the British Grand Prix.
Wow. Absolutely wow. We knew it was going to be explosive towards the end. But Blakely pulled off the perfect move at the perfect time. Upmere gave it everything. And he went for that defensive line as late as he dared. I think part of him probably knew that the move was going to be done. Even still, it was a very last millisecond cutback in front of the Mercedes for Lucas Blakely. So if he had mistimed that by another, half a tenth, Otmir would have had a much better opportunity to defend. Either way, the win goes to the McLaren. But Otis Lawrence, let's not forget him, is somewhat understated. All of the battlings going on has taken the last podium spot. Absolutely fair play. But as you can see here, Lucas Blakely taking the win. Jarno Otmir second, Otis Lawrence third, Nicholas Longuet fourth, Danny Berezne, what might have been for the Hungarian, in fifth. Fabinoso in the sixth position for 14th. Great recovery drive there. Borman, championship leader, down to seventh. I think he would have wanted better than that to maintain his championship lead. But either way, he will still be in the lead, as we said. Benham, 8th. Butcher, 9th on the alternative strategy, not going his way. The Spaniard of Carroton in 10th. Tom Manley, 11th. Tom Ronhart, 12th. Josh Dobu in 13th. Mattis van Erven in 14th. Wilson Hughes, 15th. Marcel Kiefer, the last of the finishers, down in 16th. Following that first lap incident, we lost Pedreño, Evans, Pookie, and Sipos in that race. Oh my goodness me. That was absolutely phenomenal.
What a fight. What a great fight. That's what we want to see between Lucas Blakely and Jarno Otmir. No quarter given, but superb to watch between the two of those guys. And incredible race. Again, Silverstone always does that. It always has a last lap overtake for some reason at PSGL. But Lucas Blakely, of course, he won the opening round, but that was voided. So technically, this is his first win of the season for Lucas Blakely. So again, pole to the win. Jarno Otmir second to second. That doesn't tell the story of the race, let me tell you. When we look at the stats, pole to win, second. It sounds boring, doesn't it, when we get later on? But what a race between those two. Jarno Otmir finishing in P2. That's great for his championship, of course. He's still in there as well. So he's going to get himself nice and close. And Otis Lawrence back on the podium once again. He did that 17th to the win in Kota until the steward decisions unfortunately didn't go his way, but he's back up on the podium, of course. And we have to keep in mind, of course, all these results are provisional until the stewards are done with some of the, if there's any inquiries afterwards, but results are provisional as always. But what a great race. That was fabulous to watch, and I'm sure Lucas is delighted with the victory as well, because, well, it takes a bit of courage to leave it that late to go knowing that you're going to have to send it on the outside of a two-time champion to try and take a victory here. But superb. And
you could argue that Jarno is very much the arch nemesis of Lucas and vice versa. How many times have those two fought at the very front of the likes of PSGL? How many times have the words "it's Blakely versus Otmir" been said in PSGL circles? Countless times in countless races. They know what to expect from one another. They know how hard each other races, but still, you cannot say that was an easy win. You cannot say that was an easy podium rival. That was hard fought beginning to end. It looked like the strategy was going to go Jarno's way when he managed to get the undercut +1 with Danny Berezne involved in there over Lucas Blakely. You could have. I was really thinking that this was going to be a great podium for Danny Berezne. It's unfortunate that contact just coming out of Vale robbed him essentially of that. But I'm still looking at Otis Lawrence thinking, you essentially came out of nowhere. You just kept his nose clean and let everybody else fight themselves to death, essentially. And not taking that away from Otis Lawrence, that was still a very well earned podium, because let's face it, how many fast cars were around him the whole race? One mistake from the Welshman, and that would have been the end of it.
Exactly, yeah. Well, that's convenient because he's actually standing by in the waiting room at the moment, is Otis Lawrence. So let's drag Otis in for a quick word with us. Podium sitter again, Otis Lawrence, welcome in again. That looked like a bit of a stressful one.
Yeah, it was a decent race. Quali didn't go as well as I planned. I felt like I lacked a bit of pace in the final run. But yeah, I could work on that. But the race went really well. The strategy was brilliant, and yeah, glad to come on the podium.
Yeah, it certainly looked like it was a bit stressful towards the end with the two guys up front fighting. Was there a possibility at the win, or were you happy just to sit in P3?
Yeah, obviously I tried getting past Lucas, but at the same time I didn't want to be too aggressive at the same time because I didn't want to cause another incident, to be honest. But yeah, P3 is good. I tried going for the win, but it was hard. It's always hard to be in P3 to try and get a win because at Silverstone you ideally want to be second. So yeah, anyway, good race, and yeah, hopefully we can come back stronger.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, consistent performances like that. I mean, you're not quite at the challengers age yet, but I'm assuming you're aiming for challengers shortly.
Yeah, I'm just gonna try my best. Keep driving, do my best. And yeah, hopefully we can do challenges later on the year.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, have you got anything for Mr. Otis?
One thing that I certainly talk about, or a number of us commentators talk about, is how difficult it is to gain any kind of pace advantage over the likes of everybody you've just raced against tonight. You're all so close in pace. How do you go about trying to set up the move, trying to get those tiny bits of advantage? What kind of preparation or what kind of adjustments do you make to how you drive to try and get up towards the top end of the podium?
To be honest, I would say try and force him into a mistake because everyone's so fast. The Silverstone's such a DRS training track. It's actually so hard to overtake. So I think the best way to possibly get those moves is try and force him into a mistake, as I did with Barry and Alvaro fighting. So yeah, that's how I got past him. And obviously the overcut did work with my strategy, so I did get past a few people because of that. But yeah, I think the best thing is just try and force someone into a mistake and then try and hope for the best out of it.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, simple answer. There you go. Yeah, we're off to. Actually, I haven't even checked where the car is. I usually know where we're going next week, but I'm not here next week. Qatar next week. Have you ever done much running around Qatar, Otis?
I haven't drove the track too much, to be honest. Obviously I drove it a little bit at the start, but like I don't really enjoy it too much. But yeah, if I'm racing, then obviously I'll try to sweat practice for it and I'll try and get better at it, obviously, because yeah, just gonna try and practice the tracks I'm bad at, not as good at.
So win from pole on the fastest lap then for Otis Lawrence. You've heard it here first.
Maybe, I don't know. We'll see in it. We'll see.
Great stuff. Well, Otis, thanks for hopping in. Congratulations on the podium, and we'll see you at Qatar.
Thank you.
There's Otis Lawrence, P3 man, for this week, as we quickly had to check the calendar at Qatar, but I know Lucas is going to be asking me about that, and conveniently, he's standing by in the waiting room straight away. Race winner Lucas Blakely joins us in the comments box. Lucas, right at the death, looked like a stressful one out there.
That was not easy. First of all, massive GG to Jarno and everyone that were racing. Jarno, Danny, Otis, massive GG to everyone because that was a long one. Silverstone's usually one of the quicker races that you do, but that was a long one. But no, big GG to everybody. It's always clean when you race Jarno. So yeah, massive GG, and yeah, I was stoked with that because, you know, the last few races I've done, especially, I mean, Q3's been quite a hit and miss. We've struggled to get the execution right. So to get a good Q3 in finally after a little while, I think the last good Q3 I had was one of the Austria races I done, or like USA PSGL. So I think yeah, it's good to get some cleanness done, you know, just get a clean executed quali, put it on pole, and then I didn't know how the race was going to go. I mean, we took a bit of I don't know if it was a risk, but we took a bit of a different way by going one lap longer into the sort of dying stage of the softs, sort of somewhat guaranteeing we lost a little bit of position. I messed up a bit at the start of the medium stint. The mediums, I mean, you get more grip, but when the tires are cold, the balance of the car is horrendous. So I made quite a few mistakes and had to waste maybe 20% extra ERS that I didn't need to, just to make sure I kept Nico behind. But after that, it was a long process to build up the ERS. That took like 3 to 5 business days, but then eventually we got there. And yeah, I was just trying to pick my moment because, you know, you have Danny and Jarno ahead of me who were, you know, Danny's very, you know, he's a veteran of the scene, you know, he's been in esports a long time, a highly established driver, and he's obviously, he's usually very hard and fair to race against, you know what you're going to get when you race him. So I was expecting, you know, a close one with him, which it was, and it was all good. So that was good fun. And then Yarno, as I touched on, I mean, I don't know where everyone gets this. I mean, I see quite a few people like they have this conception that everyone's like super rival or super like against each other or rivals. I mean, they don't really like me and Yarno were messaging before and after the race, after quali. I haven't like, I mean, or Yarno messaging me or whatever. You know what I mean? Like we are in great terms, and whenever we race each other, it's always good respect. And that's exactly what you saw again today. You know, when I went up the inside of Luffield, you know, maybe some drivers would have just completely closed the door on you, which would have been, you know, pretty unfair. But Yarno was perfect. You know, just leaving the exact room, not being in any way like you know, on the like over the limit. So it's always great when you get to race him. And I'm glad. I mean, we had a little race a while ago in Austria, and this was like round 2 or whatever way you want to look at it. It's always great when you have these battles. So big respect to him. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've noticed sort of that there's a lot more sort of strategy switch-ups that are going on. There's a lot more tire strategy going on. Maybe not so much with Silverstone. There's a lot of guys on softs early on. Is that something that's been there's been a lot of work gone into that? Because I mean, we had the whole last game cycle where everyone's on the same tire for the whole part of the first race. Is that something that's been there's a lot of analysis going into it this game cycle?
Oh, for sure. I mean, this game is practically the polar opposite of last year, where I would say maybe the last game. I mean, last game more so than 21, but the last few games have been quite. If you're just to bracket it, they've been a bit more It's like qualifying, like a quali championship where you have to qualify on the top all the time. This game, honestly, qualifying is only like a piece. The races are so much more important, and tactically, it's very different than before. You've got to be very creative. You've got to be thinking all the time. So yeah, it's pretty intense to race in, honestly, because like when you're in a field where you're, you know, in a sandwich, it's so easy to, you know, you don't have any idea how easy it is to run into the back of people and stuff like that, or mess up your ERS usage, and yeah, tactically this year's game is much more mixed, and it's great for, you know, the league such as PSGL, so because you get great racing out of it, because the DRS and the slipstream is, in my opinion, slightly too powerful. It is a little bit strong, but nonetheless, I don't think it's a negative thing for the competitive scene, because you see these amazing races where things just explode into life, and whereas before you weren't able to overtake in the train, now you are somewhat able to. If you're willing to put your ERS on the line. So I think this year's game is a very good step in terms of raceability, and I definitely think it's more entertaining for people. I mean, that's generally the consensus I've seen from people that I've spoken to in my chat, and just people speaking, other drivers maybe in general. Just it's much more fun. You know, I personally look forward to races more. You know, doing these league races. Whereas before it was just all about qualifying and then hanging on in the race. So I look forward a lot more to doing these races, which makes, you know, practice all that a little bit easier. So yeah.
Chris, you got anything?
No, because at the point when you came out of the pits and saw Danny was in front of you, does that either force you or tempt you to change the strategy you've got moving forward? Because no doubt you had in your head it was going to be primarily you and Yarno and the DRS train behind you, and suddenly you've got to fly in that ointment. When you're put in that position, does that force you to rethink how you then attack the second half of the race, or do you just take it in your stride and act it out of instinct?
I think that we sort of knew that was the element of the strategy for us. You know, we went that one lap longer. I think we have often just tried to make sure that we're in a good position for the end of the race. So I knew that was part of the risk. I just, you know, it's never ideal. I mean, it's bad enough when it's maybe just one car ahead of you, but I think we've also got to remember that the 2 cars ahead of me were teammates. So it was making things much trickier than normal, because under normal circumstances, the car ahead would have been trying to get past and taking leads, and I would have been able to help enforce that. But the two cars ahead were working really, really smart together. So that did ring a few alarm bells. Just the fact that they were teammates. I didn't think it was impossible to make it happen, but I just had to make sure I took any opportunity that I had. Once I got the energy back, I had to then take. So that was how I operated the race. And yeah, I think going forward, going forward, we analyse every race we do. We do our debriefs and we look at what we do. There's so much to learn on this game, even after having raced on it for, I have no idea how long now. So it's been like a month and a half or however long it's been actually released. I have no idea. So we're always learning. Things are still very fresh. But yeah, I'm just really happy to get a clean quali. Have the raw speed, have the raw pace, and then have a very good executed race where I had to work for it as well. I had to work to make it execute it well. So yeah, I'm just glad that I managed to get it all right in the end. So happy all round.
So, well, I know you normally ask what the next round is, but I'm going to quickly just tell you. It's Qatar next week. How are you feeling on that?
Actually, I really enjoy that track. I've not driven it in probably a month, but it is highly enjoyable to drive. So I look forward to actually trying it with a setup. I've only driven it with a preset setup, with the presets. So it's gonna be fun to see what it's like when you go full on crazy on the balance. It'll be interesting to see how you race there as well. So who knows?
Yeah, we're all interested. Well, Lucas, congratulations on the win. Thanks for hopping in with us.
Appreciate
it. We'll see you at Qatar, I suppose.
Oh, fail.
That was Lucas Blakely, always an interesting guy to talk to, and that was a really interesting point he made. He felt the last game cycle was all about quali. This game is all about the race, which is I think an important point to go forward, and it's something that we're really enjoying. But Lucas, as chilled as ever, but as he said, he did not find that as relaxing as maybe you would have thought. But excellent job from him, and very well managed, and he's got himself at least back into championship hunt.
Absolutely so. It's also great to see the amount of respect he's paying to Jarno and Danny and all his fellow competitors. Ironically, I'd mentioned the point that he and Jarno were arch nemesis, but I mean, behind the scenes, they do have a very, very good rapport. You only have to see them in esports circles. Not all of them obviously get on as well as each other, but it's great to see that certainly what I call the arch rivals, certainly the two biggest names at the moment, no disrespect meant to the rest of the field, but it's undeniable that Lucas and Jarno are the two biggest names in esports at this point in time, are still they're fiercely competitive on track and able to have good banter off track. And I think that's very important to remember, that they are still human beings at the end of the day, as much as they are esports royalty. They are still human beings and they still get on very well, which is good to see.
Absolutely, I think that's a very important point to make as well. I can't tell you, of course, results are all provisional. I can tell you there have been some stewards inquiries put in, and one is Danny Beresnay against Otis Lawrence. So that might be an interesting one to keep your eyes peeled to the PSGL socials for afterwards. But he has lodged the stewards inquiry to be looked at. So do not take your eyes off PSGL socials. All the updates will be brought there at PremierSimGL on Twitter and on Instagram as well. If you want to get all the updates on that, the stewards will be busy trying to work all those out as well. And not forgetting, big thank you to GT Omega for helping make this broadcast happen. Look at these lovely chairs that we're on. You can get yourself one if you go into the description. They're very, very comfortable. But yeah, we're heading to Qatar next week. Of course, it's the first time we're going to be there. First time we're going to have a league race on it in PSGL. And I'm not going to be here, so I'm gutted.
Yes, you miss out on that one. It's so I get to have the seat again, but the George is back. He'll be dominating the airwaves next time out alongside myself. So very much looking forward to continuing along this incredible journey that the F1 tier is taking us on. But that is going to be it for tonight. Thank you very much to those that have been with us throughout the stream and catching up with us post-event. Your company is always welcome. Thank you very much, Jack and Ann, for keeping me on the straight and narrow. Hopefully you can batter your Discord into behaving itself. So you that had the misbehaving Discord this week, it was me last week. But either way,
Maybe it's George next week.
Maybe it's George next week. But as always, good sir, a great pleasure to be in the box with you.
Thank you very much, and a pleasure as always. So yeah, I'm unfortunately not here for the next 2 weeks. I actually looked back, and the last time I missed a round was about a year and a half ago. So I haven't missed a round since season 29, which isn't too bad. Since Mexico, I remember it. But yeah, I'm going to be gone for the next 2 weeks. So George and Chris are going to be your lovely hosts for the next while, and we'll then be back to, well, a quote-unquote normal service, but I think it'll be interesting to see. But now, Barry Borman's lead in the championship has been cut down slightly. Danny Beresnay, of course, outscoring him today, was 18 points. He'll now be within a race win of the championship leader, Barry Borman, remaining up the front. Jarno with that second place will be right back in it, as will Lucas Blakely. But don't forget to join us at Qatar this same time next week, 7 p.m. To get all full qualifying and the race. And don't forget to check out all of the links in the description. And a big thanks to all the league staff as well for helping make this happen, to all the stewards, to all of the other commentators, and to the moderating team as well for keeping everybody on the straight and narrow. But from myself, from Chris Buxton, it's been a pleasure, and we'll see you next week for the first time ever at Qatar. So from us, it's good night.
Desperately trying to hang on. He's got the inside rope here. He's through on the left hand side. Hugs the apex, gets on the power nicely, and that is job done. Jarno Opmeer now to the last couple of corners now. His finest drive, his greatest drive, and he's done it at the Circuit of the Americas. He returns to the top step of the podium. Once again, the GOAT is back. Jarno Opmeer wins the US Grand Prix in a stunning Grand